By the way, this is improvised.
Yeah.
This is not a scripted question. Hi, welcome to Moviefone's Unscripted. I'm Vince Vaughn, and I'm here with Kevin James and Ron Howard to talk about our film, The Dilemma. So what we're going to do is ask each other some of your questions as well as some that are unscripted.
It's been a while since you directed a comedy. What drew you to this project, The Dilemma?
Well, it was an idea of my partner, Brian Grazer's, and I saw how funny people's reactions were to this notion of his, because we'd be out to dinner or something like that, and he'd throw it out there. He'd say, "Hey, what would happen if X happened to Y, and so saw it," and it would be a half hour of conversation. When I read the script, and I knew that Vince was already interested in playing the role of Ronnie Valentine, I read the script, imagined Vince. We started to have some conversations, and I thought, well, this is it for me, because as a storyteller, I want to find things that are fresh, that surprise the audience, but I always want the characters to have a chance to really take off. And I thought Vince in this role would be spectacular. Then the possibility of you. If I'm going to do another comedy, hey, you know, why not play with the Hall of Famers?
Oh, that was nice. That is sweet.
As a seasoned comedian, I mean, did you write this?
I don't
As
know.
a seasoned comedian, what tips do you have for Winona Ryder and Jennifer Connelly, who are dramatic actresses?
Well, anytime you're trying to do comedy, and I love that they were dramatic in it, and there were no tips. There were no tips. Actually, I was learning from them in it, and it was, the comedy was coming from the scene, and it was coming from the script. So I honestly believe that the more true you were in the scene, the funnier it was. It was written that way. So you know, I don't know what tips I would say, you know, to go bigger, and it wasn't necessary. The script itself was getting the laughs, so just play it as real as possible, I guess. And I would watch them and say, you know, to be more dramatic, am I playing too big? Am I you know, just try to get lost in the scene with them. And they were so great at, you know, interacting with me, and I felt very comfortable that you do get lost in it. And then I think the comedy just comes or it doesn't, you know, but I felt like it did come with them, so it was great.
And you know, they would come to me and they would just be amazed with what you guys could generate. But they kind of felt like their place in the story was to you know, to sort of bring that reality and that you know, and that honesty to all the scenes as well. And so they felt pretty comfortable with what they had to do.
But you know, from comedy, a lot of times just being really committed to something is the best thing.
That's it. As long as you lock
in. They were
in.
such good actresses that it
made them funnier, yeah.
I've never worked with an actor who's you know, more brilliant improvisationally, and not just in the comedy, but also in just the telling the story. And I've worked with some really great ones: Michael Keaton, Wilford Brimley. I mean, the people who are, you know, remarkable, and I remember them very fondly. So here's my question to you: when you were a kid in school, and it was your turn to give, like, the report, what I did over the vacation, anything like that.
Yeah.
Did you run amok? Was this a gift of yours from the time you were a kid? Or
what's interesting about that is, I think, you know, I had struggled in areas with learning in school in certain things. So like math would be very complicated for me. So I think verbally I became sort of put more energy into that because it was easier for me. So I think, like anyone, the stuff that is easier for you, you kind of spend more time with.
Right.
And the stuff that's difficult, you use what you're good at to avoid doing. So yeah, I was much more comfortable in that sort of format than if I got called to the chalkboard to have to say, if it happens on this side of the algebra equation, it happens on that side.
Right.
So it was easier for me to kind of make fun of myself or do a joke than it was to actually try to solve the problem.
I used to struggle with my reading, the processing a little bit, and on more than one occasion, rather than actually read the book for the book report, if I just kind of couldn't get there, I would just invent a book, and just, it was easier for me to cook up a plot and synthesize it into a few sentences and make up a fake author and explain why I thought it was thematically interesting than it was to actually sit down and just read a book.
That's pretty cool.
Well,
if you could star on any current reality show, which would it be?
Housewives of Beverly Hills, probably. I just want to be taken care of, and it feels, Beverly Hills is certainly a nice city to live in, and you know, I'm tired of doing all the work. I just would like to, you know, reap some of the benefits of, you know, having someone go out there and make it happen for me.
Vince, have you been in a situation like your character where you had to tell a friend something uncomfortable or hurtful, and did you tell him or her?
I never was in that situation where I saw something like Ronnie did, where I had to tell somebody. You know, you've been there for your friends, of course, when they've gone through things like that,
Right.
on that kind of side of stuff. But I've never been in a situation where you found out that kind of information and you've had to be the one sort of on the line to do that.
Right.
But, you know, I think with all of us, your imagination is the best thing you have. So you can really certainly go, this is how I feel towards my best friend.
Right.
This is their makeup. I can tweak that a little bit to go, what if they were overly this way or that way? You
Right.
know the reaction you'd get, and so you sort of build on that, so you have close friendships. But I never actually had to do the actual seeing.
Yeah.
You guys been in
How about you? How about even
No,
little things? I mean, you know, sometimes there are all those little
You know,
uncomfortable
I've gone
conversations.
and I've said,
Uncomfortable situations.
well, I've gone and I've said, I don't know that if this person is right for you. I don't
have
like.
you?
I don't like. I don't like the
Unsolicited? Like-
Unsolicited.
Wow.
If they're close.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
yeah.
do that to anyone that
Right.
you know. But if it's one of your close friends, I think it's your obligation to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be careful, because if you go up and you're like, even if your friend comes to you and they're like, God, you know, she's really annoying me. You're like, well, thank God you see it. She is the worst. I can't stand her.
You can't blast
Then
too much up, because then you might
2
get
weeks
back
later,
together.
yeah, 2 weeks later, you're calling them, they're not picking up.
Right.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like, wait a minute, we were both on this trip.
Well, you know what? I want to say thank you to Ron and Vince, and thank you to Moviefone, and to all of you for watching and sending in your questions. Please check out our incredible movie, The Dilemma. Yeah. When you're dancing, it's not about the comedy then, no. You've got to focus and you lock in, you know. I don't think funny. I think more beautiful mind when I'm dancing.